Okay, good luck with the slow descent into madness.
If you can keep up and you don't mind dying, come along.
Dance off, bro. Me and you.
You know what? There's something just extremely uncomfortable about a man your size sniffing a flower.
We're gonna need a new plan.
I'll give you anything you ask for. As long as it's not something I don't want to give.
Get off my bridge.
It's the Al Travis Show, and we are lucky to have with us the Assistant Minority Leader for the Senate, Senator Julia Coleman. Senator, how are you today?
Hey, Al, I'm doing about as well as any taxpayer in Minnesota can be doing today. How about yourself?
Oh, I can't complain. I'm more worried about the 50-mile-an-hour wind blizzard coming through here, but I get distracted easily. I want to go in order of what happened so we can discuss. It's going to put you at the front of the line. First story I want to talk about is Donald Trump. President Trump comes out and uses the R word on our governor. I don't know if I was shocked at all. We don't use that word in my home. I'm not in any way condoning anything he said that way, but he used it. And that becomes the news story for a cycle, which I presume his people knew that. It gets to push come to shove, and the Senate Democrats here in Minnesota sent the Senate Republicans, you and yours, nastyagram, a letter saying how in the world we are asking you to renounce Donald Trump and yada yada. And I'm like, okay, everybody's going to get a little political hay out of this. Then you write a letter back, well worded by the way, saying fine, will do, the second you guys stop calling us Nazis and racists and fascists. And then the story dies there. Senator Abler comes out and actually wrote a letter to Donald Trump, President Trump, which actually evidently got to him, or at least got him plenty of recognition. He's become a national celebrity now for it. Where do you sit, Senator? I know you're not going to back the using of the term, but it's just political gamesmanship from that point on, right?
Well, that's what got me incredibly frustrated, Al, is I don't like name calling from either side of the aisle. I personally don't do it. But for Democrats to act like all of a sudden they cared about name calling, that's where the hypocrisy got me. And I said, you want a response? Here's a response. Your governor has been calling us Nazis and fascists, comparing us to the worst mass murderers in history for the last year, and you have said nothing. Senator Omar Fateh called me a terrorist, and you said
no.
Nothing. You have called Trump supporters garbage, and your governor compared the president compared MAGA supporters an existential threat to democracy. So if you want to start caring about name calling, then great, welcome on board, because I've been, saying that's not okay to do for years now. So if you'd like to start, you go first. And I believe I signed it off with showing the same sincerity you showed me, Julia.
Well worded. And again, as what's funny, it isn't funny. All this is not funny. I'll stop it, but it gives you stuff to talk about. Literally, Ilhan Omar, Representative Omar, came out this weekend and used that same terminology. I presume she had seen that whole back and forth, and she still used it this weekend on national talk shows about us being, radicals and
correct.
Nazis.
And the hypocrisy of Tim Walz saying words can create violence. Well, Governor, one of the bullets that killed my friend Charlie Kirk was etched in writing, "Hey fascist, catch this." So if you want to take a look inward and see how words can be dangerous, I mean, you have to look in the mirror first. And so I do condemn name calling of all kind. I do condemn absolutely anytime someone compares somebody who is not mass murdering Jews to the Nazis. I mean, that just, especially as a mother of Jewish children, that really frustrates me. So if the Democrats want to start this, go for it. Be a leader then.
But, and I would agree, because again, I think all of this is a political standing here and there. I just had Shannon Watson on with Majority in the Middle. I believe there's a very large middle group, and I'm putting you in there because, again, you don't call people names. You might say what they're doing is wrong. You might call out whatever they're happening to be going on, but you don't call names. There must be a payoff for people to do it. Donald Trump gets some sort of payoff, not financial, but you get my point. So does the left. Something is going on where if you and I and people like-minded don't want this anymore, how do we make it happen?
Well, I think that if you don't want that type of rhetoric to go places, you have to stop engaging with it. So I'm sure that if the clips of Tim Walz calling us a Nazi or Omar
Mm-hmm.
Fati calling us terrorists
The
or Donald
Gestapo
Trump
stuff.
using the R word to describe our governor, I'm sure that you get a ton of engagement. I'm sure you
Mm-hmm.
get your base completely excited because,
Yeah.
when you try to demonize the other side and you're calling us Nazis or the Gestapo or fascists, that gets them really excited to be on, quote, the right side of something.
Yeah.
And so if people stop engaging with it, it's almost like, as a mother to children, I feel like it always prepares me for politics. I feed the good behavior and I
Yeah.
starve the bad.
There you
And
go.
so I think it's personal responsibility on behalf of the elected officials, but also on behalf of the voting population.
Can I also throw out the hyperbole of this whole thing? And maybe I'm wrong, and you tell me if you think this is true. So the governor comes out and says now people are driving by his house yelling that out the window. Like it was happening on a regular, like this is every day, all the time. Senator, who's got the time to do that? Maybe some knucklehead did. I'm not saying someone didn't. But do you believe there's a parade of humans that got time to drive by and just yell stupid stuff?
I think it maybe happened a handful of times, and he made a big error in drawing attention to it because now I see it flooding my feed all of the time. And gosh, to be his neighbors must be a bummer right now.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And again, folks, you got to have more lives than this. This is not going to do anything in the political landscape. Let's not do it. But that leads us to what's going on today, and I'll lead with the intro, and then I'll go to break, and we'll talk about it on the other side. Is the story this week seriously going to be the fraud may not hit $1 billion? We'll talk about Senator Julie Coleman right after this.
Think about it. Now that school's back in session, how are Minnesota students doing? Not very well. Minnesota ACT scores fell again last year and are the lowest they've been in 10 years. In fact, fewer than half of Minnesota students can either read or do math at grade level. Think about it. We used to brag about our schools. Now we're losing to states like Mississippi. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
Hey, Brian, what do you call a lobbyist with a sense of humor?
Me?
Close. Momentum advocacy.
We help clients get real results at the Capitol with strategy, relationships, and just enough charm to make it fun.
From policy wins to media spots, we've got your back.
Nonprofits, businesses, coalitions, we've helped them all.
And we do it with nearly 90 years of combined experience.
Momentum advocacy.
As always, your friends at the Capitol. Learn more about our team at momentum-advocacy.com.
friends. The Al Travis Show. Nothing but talk.
And we've got our Senator Julia Coleman on the program with us. Senator, the weird thing about the story this week, Donald Trump, besides using the R word, Donald Trump comes out and says he thinks there's $1 billion worth of fraud in the state of Minnesota. Star Trib decides, well, wait a minute here. There's no proof it's $1 billion. Well, the U.S. Attorney General, I actually heard of the guy who started this whole thing, thinks he will go after people in the Feeding Our Futures case alone for $1 billion, feels this is going to be multiple billions of dollars. I don't think Donald Trump was on a jump start here, something huge. But let me ask you this. Let's say the Star Tribune is completely right. It only makes it to $800 million. Is that not enough for me to be completely teed off? How does the extra $200 million make a difference, Senator?
I can't imagine a newspaper that wasn't concerned with whether or not the Democratic establishment in their state, liked them or not, would ever have published that story, let alone on the front page. That should be a line in an article about fraud. Sure, the president said it's $1 billion. Current estimates show it's closer to $800 million. That does not need to be the entire story. The entire story should be ethical journalists sitting outside the governor's mansion every single day going, who knew what when? How did this happen? How could this have been prevented? Governor, you have a task force trying to cut money from special education. Why isn't more being done to stop the fraud rather than cut from special ed? I mean, we don't have a task force right now on how to stop the fraud immediately. And so I don't see the journalistic integrity, and it's incredibly frustrating.
Well, absolutely, because the story for Al today would be, wait a minute, Governor, you decided you're going to stop this people with disabilities housing program. I don't even know what it consists of, but you're going to stop it for 6 months because you think there's fraud going on there. Governor, what makes you think so? When did this get started, and how much money are we talking about? Why do I not know the answers to that?
I honestly don't think he knows all the answers to that. And just talking to some of the people that now, we don't have a task force going right now to like an emergency one going, but we do have a committee on waste, fraud, and abuse. And I just can't imagine some of my conversations with them that it's not going to easily exceed $1 billion. I think it's worse than we know.
Okay. Well, and that's kind of my point. The story's way ahead of itself. If we get all done and it doesn't make $1 billion, maybe you can say something. But if the U.S. Attorney General, who's got 5 people on staff, and they think they're going to be at $1 billion, no problem, why would I not accept that as possibly true? Channel 9 comes out and thinks it's $800 million. I don't know. That doesn't make me one way happier or not. But what I want to talk to you about then, Senator, is you all, and I don't know where you voted on this, so maybe I'm going to put my foot in the mouth. The independent inspector general bill, 60 of 67 senators voted for that. And we couldn't get it over the line, right? We could not get that passed in the House. How do the senators, how do we get past legislation then that can stop some of this? Is there a way? If we can't, I mean, it is an inspector general or bust. I would put in, how do we put the guardrails in?
You know, it's easy things. You know, one thing that we could have done that got voted down is something as simple as before an agency doles out grant dollars, they have to make one site visit. The person up north who said he was feeding more than the population of the entire town, that could have been prevented with one visit and a couple of basic questions. But we don't even have guardrails in saying, just make one visit. I had a bill that said, if you suspect fraud, you are required to report it, and your job is protected. Didn't get a hearing, nor did it pass. So even if we can't get a whole new agency in, we can put in basic common sense guardrails. They just have to be okay with the ideas maybe coming from Republicans now and then.
Well, see, and that it's common sense stuff. I was sitting with my barber. I've been using this today. She gets somebody, I don't want to say it was every year, but maybe it's every 2 years. Every 2 years comes in through the barber shop to make sure the combs are in the blue stuff and she's sweeping up the hair, whatever they got to get. She gets tested all the time. Why would it be so much harder to have that guy wing by the, I don't know, what do they call it? Attention Deficit Autism Center in Blue Earth, and I would have one, wing by and make sure they actually have a store open and children show up. Why is the stuff we're throwing out now not get the same scrutiny that my barber does?
And again, I know I sound like a broken record, but when I'm sitting on committees and trying to figure out how to cut money from nursing home care and special needs children, it's just so incredibly infuriating that we cannot get our act together with this. And if there, you say, how can we get this done? Unfortunately, I just have to hope and pray that the public keeps getting angrier and angrier about this and putting more pressure on their Democratic representatives and the governor to actually take action here and not allow stories like what we just saw in the Star Tribune or the nonstop influx of news stories about fraud make voters numb to it.
Well, numb to it. Let's do this. What about things we've already passed? Can we fix them? He put the pause for 60 days or 6 months on this disabilities home thing. Can he do, or should we ask him to do the same for Minnesota paid family leave? As I understand, a couple problems. No limit on the number of people for any one person who's sick. My mom gets sick. There are 6 of us in the state. We can all take off to help mom. Did anybody know that? If I have 2 jobs, I can keep one and take just the other one off and get paid by the state. This is so ripe for crime, so ripe to be frauded out. Is there a way of stopping it until we put some guardrails up?
Oh, absolutely. And Al, I'm actually the chief author of the bill in the Senate that sought to put guardrails around this, that looked and said, this is right for fraud, this is right for fraud, this is right for fraud. And let's put some basic fixes in there. And this is the problem with one party rule, is we saw that in order to have bipartisanship in this state or to hear out the other side, you have to force it. You have to force divided government. You have to force people to work together because of the way our government is set up. And so they were unwilling. And some Democrat senators voted against their own bills when we offered them as amendments to put guardrails against the paid family leave program because they were told to stick with the party line. And it's so frustrating. It's not the twins that are turning my hair gray. It's working in government. But my hope is with all the pressure on an election year, and I know it's cynical, but it is an election year coming up, with all the pressure for that, is that maybe we will see some of that willingness to make changes.
Okay, but changes, big changes not. Can anything happen between now and the end of the year? Governor stopped this other program. Could he put the kibosh on this until you all get back into the House in February, the House and the Senate, and make some new rules? Does he have the political want to do that? To me, that means that's about the only way, because once you start seeing this stream of fraud going on, you guys get in February, try to pass a law, maybe it'll come out, in 6-8 months. We're just so far down the road and losing money. Is there enough will in the state? I think people right now are tired of the fraud. If we know it's coming, let's stop it.
I'd have to imagine that the governor does have enough authority to direct an agency to pause something. And even if he doesn't, I know a lot of Republicans that would be willing to come in for a one-day special session to give them the power to do that.
Wow, that would be some politics in the month of December. But this all kickstarts in 3 weeks, and I'm going to tell you, I didn't even realize this. If you had a child in 2025, you can apply January 1 to take whatever it is, 20 weeks off to take care of that child that you had before this program even existed. Is that a true statement? Can that happen, Senator?
According to the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, that can indeed happen. And I believe that was something else we tried to point out as hey, maybe this is a flaw you hadn't considered, and got shut down.
That's just crazy. All right, just over the top nuts for me, Senator. I appreciate it. I know you're on your way now to do some big business at the Capitol, and you take the time to be on here. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate you.
Anytime. Have a good week, Al.
Senator Julia Coleman on the Al Travis Show.